Alright, so good morning everyone. Thanks for coming for the Soundcraft Si Expression training, as you can see there. And hello to you watching on YouTube. Hope you're having a nice day. So, what we're going to do today is we are going to compare your old mixer, right, which is this Yamaha MG series console, right, analog console, to the new Soundcraft Si Expression, right? Now, I take it that all of you have some experience using something that looks like this, yeah? Alright, good. So either in the old youth building or in the center or in church or that sort of thing. Great. So the first thing that I'd like to do is I'd like to briefly go over what's the function of a mixer, okay? What does a mixer do, etc. So let me just quickly go around and see. Andrew, what does a mixer do?
Mixes all the instruments into
like
one sound that's preferable to the...
Okay, right. So first of all, the most obvious, right? A mixer mixes. It takes lots of different sources. So you got mics, you got keyboard, you got guitars running through a DI, and it mixes them all together such that they can be sent out to an amplifier and speakers, right? Then it allows you to modify the sounds that you are sending through the mixer, right? How can they be modified, Jeremiah?
Volume controls,
okay,
and all the different knobs.
Excellent, right? So a mixer allows you to balance the sound. It also allows you to modify the sounds using the EQ and also using the effects, right? That's very important because not all sounds are created equal. You have some that are really loud just by nature, like drums and electric guitars, and you have some like vocals that are softer. I mean, if you think about it, some things produce no sound at all, right? Like a phone, it's got a tiny little rubbish speaker on the inside, right? You plug it into this, you can run it through your whole big, massive sound system. Okay, fantastic. So we've got that all done together. Now, the next thing that we're going to look at is we're going to look at the similarities and the differences. Okay, this is an analog console, meaning that inside it there's a circuit board that has a lot of different parts on it. This is a digital mixer. A digital mixer is basically a computer that has faders. That's the best way of thinking about it. So what are some of the similarities and differences that you see between the two? Let's go the other way. Zach?
They both have is it the frequency controls?
You're talking about these things here?
No, I forgot what they're called.
These jobs?
Yeah, the slider.
Okay, so these are called faders. Okay, very good. So they both got faders, right? That's the most obvious difference between them. Okay, next, can say similarities or differences.
They will have these knobs on top.
Okay, good. So this one has lots of knobs. This one also has lots of knobs, but you see they're a little bit different, right? Okay, Moto?
Differences are all can be memorized.
Ah, good. Okay, so Moto obviously has done his reading and he understands that this guy can actually memorize and recall settings, right? So just like when you boot up your computer, your document is there in the way that you last worked on it. That's a little bit like what this guy is. With this guy, it's completely analog, right? If your fader's like that, you go away, somebody brings it down, when you come back, it'll be there, right? There's no recall function. Very good. The way that I'm gonna take this session is that I'm gonna assume you know a little bit about this guy, right? And then I'm gonna show you how it translates to this bigger console. Okay, so in a typical work sequence, right, what you do is, what's the first thing that you do when you come in to the room, right, and you want to use the PA system? Okay? What's the first thing that you do?
Turn it on and have a sound check.
Good, okay, so, right, you've already gone like 1 through 10 there, right? Okay, so the first thing is you want to power on the system, okay, very good. After you power on the system, what do? Let me just write these down as we go, okay, so we have the idea that, okay, so we have power on, okay, then what do?
Hook up the wires from the instrument to the
okay,
mixer.
good. So then we got to make connections. Excellent, all right? So we got to make connections. Now, on this mixer, you plug in your inputs up here, right? So microphones plug in here, guitars, you can connect directly or through a DI box. After that, what's the next step on this mixer? What knob do you have to adjust?
This one to control the volume.
Ah, right. But even before that, what do you have to adjust? Make sure it's correct. Yes, Moto? Ah, right. So you got to make sure the channel's on, and one more?
Gain.
Right. You got to make sure that sorry, that's the compressor. This is the gain. Okay, you got to make sure that your gain is set correctly. So we have connections, then we have set gain. Very good. Okay. Now after gain, assuming you've got sound happening, what do you usually tweak next? Okay, right, so we adjust our fader until things are loud enough. If the tone is not nice, what do we do? If it doesn't sound good, what, fire the singer? Yes?
Equalizer.
Correct. So if we can't fire the singer, right, because this is church, we can't do that, don't have the budget for a new one, we will adjust the EQ section. Alright? Now, on this mixer, you also have these yellow knobs here. Anyone knows what these do? Just look nice, huh? When you're not happy, you twiddle it, that makes you feel better. These are the one knob compressors, okay? So what these do is they give you a little bit of control over the level, right? Stops it from going too loud or too soft. So on this mixer, you have compressor, you also have a gate, and together they're called dynamics. After that, you would route the signal to the speakers, right? So we have route to outputs. Okay, great. So what we're going to do is we are going to run through that whole sequence on this guy. All right, now what I've got is, for the beginning of the class, I've got this guy hooked up to QSC K10 here, right? And we're just going to work with the local input to start with, right? Because in the second part of the class, we'll expand to the bigger speakers over there. All right. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just power this off. Does everyone know where the master switch for the system is? Okay, good. Right. So there's that big red switch next to the door, all right? That controls the power coming to here. If you don't switch that on, you won't get anything, all right? Very important that you switch that on if you want to use the PA system. Okay, now, do you switch the mixer on first or last? Right, okay? You want to turn the mixer on first because everything is connected to the mixer. If you turn the mixer on last, chances are is that you'll make some noise in the rest of the signal chain. Okay, so let's go through turning on the mixer, right? Who knows how to do that? Okay, so Jeremiah, you got your power button there. What do? That's right, okay? So you just press to switch on, and this mixer, because it's a computer, it has this boot sequence, right? It takes probably about 30 seconds to start. And there's that sexy looking lady. I don't know why they didn't put a man there. It must be, okay? And you just wait.
Is it same as the main call? Actually, the one place and the second time longer.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's the turn on is press once, the turn off is press and then press again. Okay, good. So our mixer's booted up. You can see that it has returned to the previous state, right? So these two faders have come up and this is showing the menu screen. Okay, so far so good. Now, if for any reason you need to bring the mixer back to its factory default, okay, the way that you do it is on the screen here, right? You press system, okay? So I just go back to that. You press system and then you press reset all, okay? Now when you press reset all, it will ask you to confirm, and then I'm going to press yes. Now this will not erase any of the stored scenes, okay? But what it does is it puts the mixer back to its normal starting point, okay? And if you're using the mixer in another location, this is a useful thing to, or if you're just taking over from another engineer. On this mixer, the analog console, can you see this? Yeah, I'll just move it out here a little bit. How did we set gain on this guy? Can anyone remember? There is actually a procedure. I bet you all just right? Something like that, yeah? Right? Got sound can already. Alright. So the gain setting procedure is important because if you have too much gain, what happens?
Too loud.
Too loud and distortion, right? And we're talking about the kind of distortion that's bad distortion, right? Not electric guitar distortion, but distortion that hurts people's ears. If the gain is too low, what happens?
No sound.
No sound. Good, alright? So this knob has to be set correctly. If the rest are a bit off, it's okay. But this one, if you set it wrong, you can actually do some damage. So very briefly, the analog gain setting procedure is fader all the way down, channel off, okay? This is in case the signal coming in is real hot. You press this, which is PFL, okay? You can see there. Now, does anyone know what PFL stand for?
Pre-fader.
Yeah?
Something.
Pre-fader, lepak, no. Okay, yeah. Pre-fader, listen, okay? A long time ago when I was taking a course under Mr. Marty McCann from PV, he would say to us, he was from Mississippi, he said, PFL does not stand for pretty freaking loud, okay? And I'll never forget that. So he was the PFL man. So you press this, what this does is, it takes this channel, alright, and it sends it to the meters. It also sends it to the headphones so that you can listen to just this channel, alright? Then get your mic, you talk into it, and you watch the meters, right? Check, check, 1, 2, 1, 2, check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you raise the gain until the signal is just at 0, okay? So this is the analog gain setting procedure. And whether or not you followed it, now we're on to something slightly different. Okay, after that, then you can take off the PFL, switch the channel on, and you can raise the fader. This mixer's not hooked up to anything, so we won't hear anything. Okay, now this guy. This guy, the gain setting procedure is a little bit different. Number one, if you look at the meters, what is the difference in the meters between this and the other mixer? There's a very obvious difference. It is in the numbers. It's not the number of meters.
These are just numbers, then there's like signal unit here.
Oh, okay. What about the numbers? What do you see that's different?
It doesn't go above 0.
That's right, very good. Okay, so you notice that with this mixer, they go from minus 54 to 0. On this mixer, they start at minus 30, they go to 0, and then they keep going to about, in this mixer it's I think plus 50, okay? With analog mixers, there's a 0 and then there's a plus minus. With digital mixers, they use a different scale called dBFS, which means decibel full scale. And basically, there's nothing above 0. The only thing above 0 is distortion, okay? So with digital mixers, you don't aim for 0, okay? You aim for something else, and that something else is important to know. All right, this mixer, there are actually meters on each individual channel. Okay, so you can see there's a tiny little meter here. If you want to see it on the big meters, you can press solo. So notice what I do. Okay, so check, check, 1, 2, check, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, as you can see, as I turn this, it increases. Check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, can you see that the minus 12 is yellow? All right, so that is your target, so to speak. Once you see it hitting that, you got to stop adjusting. Now, what do you notice about the position of this compared to on this mixer? Do you notice that it's about the same, right? So here with my voice, it's set to about 2 o'clock. Over here, it's about 2 o'clock. So they've been very smart. They've actually designed it such that the gain structure here mirrors what's on the analog console. So if your gains were like 2, 3 o'clock, you set them here, it should sound about the same. You've probably noticed by now that the analog mixer, there was one set of controls for every channel, okay? We all understand that each column of knobs is one channel, right? So it can be an instrument, it can be a microphone, it can be one side of a CD player, that sort of thing. So here, every channel has gain, it has EQ, it has effects, pan, so on and so forth. With the digital mixer, each channel has some controls, it has one knob, but there is only one set of EQ controls, right? And this is the big difference between the two. The reason is that because it's a computer, this set of controls can be assigned to any channel, all right? And it will change depending on what is set in that particular channel. So how do you assign this to a particular channel? Which button do you use? Right, okay, so you press SEL. So when you press SEL, this becomes the EQ, the gate, the compressor for that channel. Same with this, etc. The great thing about that is that you also now have EQ on your outputs, you have EQ on all of your mix buses, and you can use this for anything, inputs as well as outputs, right? On this mixer, you are stuck with what you got. There's no EQ on the outputs, there's no EQ on the auxiliaries. Okay, Soundcraft called this the ACS, assignable channel strip, okay, as opposed to my alma mater. And I'll just run you through this briefly, okay? You've got an input section, you've got a gate section, compressor section, equalizer or EQ, and then you've got an output section, right? Now, the other thing that I have to check that you all understand is the idea of the difference between knobs and encoders, right? These are knobs, right? Knobs turn and they stop. Do we all understand that? Do we all understand that these guys just spin around and around, they never stop? Okay, that's why they're called encoders, right? And in order to figure out the value, you can't look at, there's no pointer, right? You have to look at the ring of lights that's around it. The great thing about that is that they can be used for different functions, right? So you'll notice that right now, this is mirroring this, so it's being used for gain, okay? On this mixer, these can be gain, they can be high pass filter, or your pan control. So you see when I select the pan control, they change, right? And they look like your analog pan. So you can pan left and you can pan right. Okay, good. So let's put it back to gain and let's have a look at where we are here. The on and mute is the same as on the Yamaha. You can use the solo if you want to listen in the headphones, right? Otherwise, you don't have to use it, because with this mixer, if you want to see something here, you gotta press PFL. With this mixer, it's always displayed, right? You can see it, even now it's picking up the sound of my voice from the mic that's over there. We've got our gain set. How do we get sound? Okay, this one challenge I give to Andrew, right? Andrew, the gain is set correctly. Now, how do we get sound? Let's see what Andrew does.
Is it plugged in?
Yeah, the loudspeaker's plugged in, it's turned on. Okay, so you know that you've got signal here and your gain is nice and healthy. What do you do next? Do exactly as you would do on an analog mixer.
Turn it on.
Yep, good. Okay, so you turn that on. Right, next thing?
Fader.
That's right. Okay, you got to raise the channel fader. Okay, now there's one more fader you got to raise.
The main volume.
Yes, that's right. Okay, good. And where is that? Yeah, your hand's right over it. Not quite.
Not sure if it's mono or...
It's left, right. Yeah, it's connected to left, right.
Hello. Hello.
Ah.
Hello. Hello.
Okay, good. So, got sound, right? We can all go home, right? Not so fast. So, the point is, check 1, 2, Check, check, 1, 2. Right, so the point is that this mixer, at its heart, it's designed very much like an analog console, right? So gain correct, fader up, channel on, master up, you'll get sound. There's a couple of things that can catch you out. Number one, the master has an on switch. Check 1, 2, check 1, 2, check 1, 2. So there are several places in which it can be switched on and off. Now on this mixer, the master has no on switch. So that gets me all the time, right? So you got to check that that is turned on. The other thing is that on this mixer, the faders can be used for more than one function. The mixer uses the faders to send the signal to lots of different places. So let's say that we're like that. What has changed? Ah, right. So you notice that there's now this color, okay? Soundcraft use this color system, right? They call it faderglow. Sounds like a sort of shampoo, right? And they use this to sort of warn you that this is not a normal channel fader anymore. So you'll notice that when there's no color, it means it's a normal input fader, okay? When it's this kind of, I think they call this yellow, right? Yellow means that you're sending to a pre-fade auxiliary, okay? If it's green, it's a post-fade auxiliary. If it's blue, it's going to the effects engine. And you can see there, so this is the masters. These are all pre-fader, these are post. If it's orange, it's going to matrix, okay? So you got to bear this in mind. If you see the fader is a color, then you automatically got to say, maybe I'm not adjusting the right thing. Okay, and this happens to me all the time, right? So I'll be here and it's like, hey, how come no sound, right? But actually I'm not adjusting the correct volume. Okay, so we'll revisit faderglow in a second. The other thing that you probably noticed is that anyone knows how many inputs this mixer has? Harold, come round and count. Count the number of XLRs. Just the inputs.
16.
Okay, 16. So this mixer on the back, it has 16 inputs. How many faders do you see?
14.
So where are the other two? They left them off, right? Now this is something that digital mixer manufacturers love to do. The reason that it has only 14 faders is to fit it into this 19-inch rack mount format. So where are the other two, okay? Do you have to go to Soundcraft and ring them up and claim your two missing faders, right? No, they use what are called layers. So here it's inputs 1 to 14. When you press B, all right, these are your remaining inputs, okay? So you have 15 and 16, and then you have your stereo inputs, and then these are the returns from the effects engine, okay, which we'll talk about later. C, can anyone remember what these are?
Like the pre-fade and the post.
That's right. So these are your what they call bus masters, right? Meaning these are the master faders for all of the outputs from the mixer. And D is your matrix outputs. So most of the time we're going to be dealing with A and B, okay? So A is 1 to 14, B is everything else, okay? Including the stereo inputs for the CD player and your iPhone with death metal music on it. All right?